some sort of damage there at the left front. Now, we're not sure what caused it, if anything, but it's not good to see him out of the car at this early stage of the race. That doesn't mean to say he's out of it. Oh, there's a little drama. Not good. Race control will possibly have a look at that, but they did gather it up very, very quickly. There is a fine for wheel nuts spinning down pit lane to the V8 Supercar Championship. John looks a little bit puzzled there. Neil Crompton, in the meantime, has rejoined the race. He's on his 9th lap, or was on his 9th lap when he rejoined the race, and the others escaped. For example, the leader was on 18th lap, so it's a long way behind Cromley, but of course this is valuable testing for him in this almost brand new car.
It's great to see him back out there, and apologies to Neil for putting him in the bin earlier, because we thought that he wasn't going to manage to get back out there. Now, what about the biggest mover of the day? Jason Bright started in 22nd position. He has moved up to 8th position now, and I can tell you from pit lane that Jeff Breck and the team from HRT are now re-crunching the numbers. There's a rethink on race strategy for Jason Bright, simply because he's going much better than the numbers that they allocated him in the first place.
Yeah, well, that's the thing. If he's still moving up through the queue, just let him go for it, because if his position stabilised and he wasn't getting any more speed, that'd be your trigger to get him in and get one of those compulsory stops out of the way. But he is flying through the field. Scaife, Murphy, Bright and Longhurst are the only 4 cars on the track that have dipped into the 124s. And it's interesting, we're talking to HRT about the speed of Jason Bright's car. It would appear with these new Dunlop tyres, the window of operation for the correct air pressure is smaller on the Dunlop tyres than it was on the Bridgestones. And it appears that Jason's car, this car number 2, is controlling those tyre pressures better. Now, whether that's a result of his chassis setup or his driving technique, it's still too early to say, but this car is just using its tyres particularly well. And look at the amount of speed it's got. It's just incredible. Under brakes, down the inside.
That's a move on Stephen Johnson. Does he get through? It looks as though he will. Jason Bright gets him.
Puts him up to 7th. He is storming through this field.
From 22nd up to 7th position so far for car number 2 from HRT. Remember, he led for most of this race yesterday, then had such a disappointing finish. He's looking to make amends today, up into 7th position overall for Jason Bright.
What's the power down out of here?
Good job, mate. Great job. You're in 7th place now, mate. 7th place.
Yeah, Mark Scaife leads him out. Greg Murphy is 2. Richards 3. Lowndes in position 4. Ambrose 5. 6 is Tanner, and there's Jason Bright.
Yeah, I was talking to Brighty and the guys that set his car up and that, and they said that really the Dunlops have fallen right into Jason's hands, because he likes his setup a lot harder than Mark's setup, and really that's why his setup suits the Dunlop down to the ground, and that's why we're seeing Jace the Face going as well as he can.
John Matthews from Glenn Seaton's team has been telling me that Glenn has a double-pronged problem at the moment. The Ford credit entry has bent steering. He had contact with Anthony Tratt early in the race. The car is understeering quite heavily, but to make matters worse, he's having trouble communicating that to the team on the radio.
This is a spectacular battle we're seeing between Lowndes and Richards. It's the battle for 3rd position. And Ambrose is just waiting to pounce right behind him. If there's any trouble ahead between these 2 guys, expect the Pertec Ford to come shooting past. But at the moment, Stephen Richards is doing a fantastic job to hold off the 00 Motorsport Ford Falcon of Craig Lowndes.
I believe the consistency of these tyres too. You always look at the back of these cars, Stephen Ellery, and wait for them to start dancing around a bit. But these things are incredible. They just seem to last and last and last.
Yeah, I've found the Dunlops very good. A much better tyre than we had last year, and I think it's a great controlled tyre and a step in the right direction for the category.
Great battle this. On board with Craig Lowndes. He has not been able to find even a sniff of opportunity. Stephen Richards doing a brilliant job holding him out.
There's your PlayStation 2 race score. It'll tell the story of Jason Bright up into 7th position. But what about Craig Lowndes? He missed out on victory yesterday, as we said. He's won every Saturday race. That's gone. That's history now. But Craig Lowndes has never, ever left Adelaide without at least 1 race victory across the weekend. So it's hardly unexpected to see Craig Lowndes charging so hard throughout this field, but he's currently got the Castrol Commodore in front of him, and Stephen Richards does not want to budge.
That is a quick corner. Look at this under brakes. He's just been ducking out there under brakes, maybe get a little bit of cool air, a little bit more intimidation for Stephen Richards.
Almost a little love tap from Lowndes under the back of Richards, but only a millimetre in it. It's
got to be one of the favourite overtaking spots, Stephen Ellery, down the end of that back straight now, particularly when you're arriving that much faster.
Yeah, it's a probably not the only one on the track, but it's the best one on the track, like you said. And I passed a lot of cars there yesterday, and it's really the only spot you can do it safely and know that you're going to make it. So I think that's Craig's opportunity to get past.
When you got caught out with Max Wilson's oil, when you had that spin, were the oil flags out, or were you just caught entirely by surprise?
No, the flags weren't out in time. It was it happened just in front of me, so we didn't have time to get flags.
So we remain with the battle for 3rd, 4th and 5th. That's Garth Tander. Right behind him, Jason Bright, Stephen Johnson, Tony Longhurst is there, Jason Bargwanna, Todd Kelly, and the Team Brock car of Craig Baird. Let's look at the numbers. Car number 1 is in position number 1. 4.77 seconds behind is Greg Murphy. Stephen Richards in 3rd.
Tony Longhurst, he's dipped into the 24s as well, and the better electrical Falcon, Jason Bargwanna. Larry Perkins in 16th, 37 seconds behind our race leader.
David Bernard, Mark Larkham and Simon Wills and Rodney Forbes round out your top 20. This is Adelaide, it's alive, it's the Clipsal 500. Come back and join us.
26 laps of 78 down in race 2 of the Clipsal 500 this weekend, and a flurry of fuel stops now. All the major players are coming in. Bright is there. Scaife, of course, still out on the circuit. Stephen Richards has come in. Greg Murphy was the first actually into pit lane. And that was Mark Larkham squeezing up behind one of the cars exiting pit lane. Here is Murphy now. And there's a good look at that new fuel injection and air ejection system.
Oh, it's about to get frantic and furious. You saw all sorts of things going on in pit lane yesterday, and basically there was so much action going on. Oh, Murphy, trouble.
Yeah, a little bit of a leak there, but it managed to get away with it. It's one of the cars in here. We've got a problem in the back there. What's he doing?
That looks like the Surimo Williams entry of Paul Morris, car number 29, with his esky in the back.
Putting more dried ice in the driver cooling system.
Oh, Paul Radicic.
Yep.
Yet again, a woeful weekend continues for Paul Radicic. It started on Friday when he put the car into the wall. Let's see what got Paul Radicic's car number 18 into trouble. That's the same place. That's coming onto Bartels Road, so
exactly
that's before he got down to the sweeper.
That's where he went off yesterday.
Can't take a trick, Paul Radicic, and this is Paul Morris.
Well, we'll see them replacing the big block of dried ice in the driver's cooling system. He's obviously suffering terribly with the heat here.
He's just taken some aspirin too, guys. Paul Morris is suffering from very bad back pain. He looks like, in fact, he's getting out of the car by the looks of things, undoing the belts now. So Paul Morris, we might try and grab a word with him here, but not a good way to start for Paul Morris. He had an accident at Oran Park some years back, and I wonder if it's a back injury that harks back to that time, but Morris struggling to get out of the car at the moment. We'll come back.
Yeah, we remember that accident, of course. That was the heavy one with Mark Larkin, wasn't it? And Paul Morris is not feeling great at all. I mean, take a look at that. That's pure exhaustion for you there. Broke through for his first win last year at Calder. Round 7 winner in the V8 Supercar Championship of 2001. So Scaife comes into pit lane as well.
Just a routine stop. Okay, let's have a look. Oh, I wouldn't like to be Jeff Grant stopping that lane. Yeah, just having a clean of the windscreen, fuel going in, nothing untoward. They filled up Mark's water bottle, that's all done. And fuel still going in, and it's go, that's it. You heard that, they said go. Yeah, that was nice clean stop, everything okay.
Yep. Great job. They said go, and Mark Scaife took off. It sounded a bit blasé the way Barry described it, and that's probably the way that HRT do things down there, because I was going to mention that so many teams started to lose their nerve in pit lane yesterday when all the action started going on. You had cars overshooting their spots and all sorts of things going left, right and centre. Refuelling going for Russell Engel, car number 8, the Castrol Perkins Commodore. He's been under some heavy pressure from John Bowe throughout this field, and Bowe moved up from 19th to 14th position to challenge Russell Engel. In fact, John Bowe, given the dramas that Aussie Male Racing have been having across the weekend, he was one of only 8 drivers yesterday to go 124 or better. He finished in 18th position. Perseverance got him through in the end because they were having a pretty bad day. Understand that a safety car is out on the course. So Simon Wills is in the Cat Ford. Refueling done. and safety car has come out as a result of the Paul Radicic incident that took place up on turn 7.
Craig Lowndes and Marcus Ambrose are the race leaders. Stephen Johnson, Tony Longhurst, Jason Bargwanna, Craig Bed. There's the stranded Radicic car, and we believe that Scaife may be coming in straight away to get his compulsory tyre stop out of the way. Again, smart strategy under safety car periods to get those two official stops out of the way as soon as you can. It gives you a lot of freedom in race strategy toward the end.
Marcus Ambrose is in, Stephen Johnson comes in front of him.
That little bottle there, that tops up the driver's drink system. Here's the new refuelling jig, operated by one man. Here comes Scaife. As we said, he's going to get his compulsory tyre stop out of the way too, under safety car conditions.
Yeah, I'm just looking at this new wheel changing system of theirs. I got to say to HRT, they are very, very... Oh, stopped it, stalled it, but got it going again. You heard him say pull over and get in front of Bargwanna.
Nice job, mate, nice job. Just get back here, Ruben. Not with your safety car. Just bring the tyres up the centre as much as you can.
Scaife comes back out. 2 stops out of the way.
Stevie Richards, the Team Castrol team down here, it's frantic. Perkins has got in and Richards is coming after him. They've had to push his car back and to get around Richards, but Richards has come in and backed up again while the pace car's out to do a tyre change.
Craig Lowndes still out there leading this one. Hasn't come in for either of his stops yet. Here's Wayne Gardner, takes on fuel. Gardner's been fighting his way through the field. Now Ingall's still in there. This looks very slow stop for tyres. There's a bit of a mix-up, I'm not sure. It's a very slow stop for Ingall.
Well, the last time we saw Russell Ingall, he didn't have the jacks up. And there's also trouble for Glenn Seaton's car. Ford Credit Racer up on its jacks, and a couple of the guys underneath trying to fix a problem there at the front left-hand side.
Quite sure what the problem is there, Matthew.
Well, Glenn Seaton currently in 23rd position. Hasn't been a great weekend for him either. In the back of the Ultra-Tune car of Paul Romano. He's good to go, and he does.
But nice and slow, that's the boy. Well done, buddy.
That's right, 40 kilometres throughout pit lane, and remember there is no stop-go penalties this year. If you get a penalty, it basically means you've just got to come through pit lane at 40 k's. You don't have to stop and start again, just put the rev limiter on and knock it down to 40 k. So still some trouble at Glenn Seaton.
The main concern with Glenn Seaton, and this is a long stop for Glenn Seaton here, the main concern was the steering. They have brought the car in to adjust the steering after that contact with Anthony Trapp. They were worried about it overheating, so they sprayed plenty of fluid along the radiator while it was in here. Now, guys, a lot of radio chat during this safety car period between Jason Bright and the Holden Racing team. They're saying, Jace, what do you want to do? Do you want to bring it in? Do you want to stay out there? Do you want to do your tyres now? What's the call? At the moment, he's weighing it up.
Well, Glenn Seaton stopped at the end of pit lane. It's going to put him down the lap, I think.
Well, the safety car was coming round while he was sitting there on the left-hand side of our screen. The safety car was bringing the field back around over to his right, so...
I just would have thought he had enough time to get out in front of the safety car. Now he's had to go on the back of the queue. There's plenty going on down in pit lane. Larry Perkins coming in for his compulsory tyre stop as well. Castrol Commodores being serviced. Jason Bright takes over the lead. I assume Lowndes has peeled off for his stop. John Bow is in there as well in the Aussie Mail Ford. He's made good progress this afternoon. Craig Lowndes slipped right down the order. I assume that's because he's come in for a stop.
Paul Morris is back in the car. So Morris has seemed to have grabbed some medical attention, some quick medical attention. Jumped back in the cockpit and he's away. That was Rodney Forbes. Here comes John Bow. The 888 car, the 47-year-old former series champion, a 4-time runner-up. Experience and speed from this man. His 17th year in touring car driving. Just on the left there was Paul Radicic's car being removed. You're on board with the 00 Motorsport Falcon of Craig Lowndes, keeping the heat in the Dunlop tyres. Each car gets 16 tyres. Qualifying and racing must come from those 16 across the weekend.
According to our pit spotters, Lowndes has made both his compulsory stops as well. Took advantage of that safety car period to get fuel and tyres out of the way. He's rejoined the queue. He's back in 18th in the queue. Still on the lead lap. Here's the recovery team on site to get Radicic's car out of the way.
Yeah, I've just spoken to HRT and I said, well, why don't they bring Jason in for tyres at the moment? He says, well, what we're trying to do is get as much of a gap as possible, but the problem is now the safety cards hasn't really done the job for him, has it? You know, I said, why don't you bring him in now? And they said, no, we want to try and get it when the safety car comes in so we can get as big a gap as possible.
The guys in front of you will have to pit again, so you're in the best position, so just concentrate on looking after the car and yourself for the race now, mate.
You're listening to Jeff Gregg talking to Mark Scape. You're wondering what all the tubes are coming out of the front of Scape's helmet. That's part of the cooling system that HRT is operating here in Adelaide. Doesn't look space age, but at least it keeps their face cool throughout the 78 laps. And 55 plus degrees inside that cockpit, especially when you're nestled up underneath another car. Right behind him, you get the heat from the concrete walls. It just gets trapped along this 3.25 kilometre circuit. Simon Wills, Glenn Seaton back in as well.
Once again, Mark Scape finds himself in the box seat. 3 cars in front of him still to make their second stops. Scape's made both his compulsory stops. He's sitting 4th in the order. Jason Bright's still got to come in and make his second one. You can see he's got plenty of speed. He's consistently been the fastest car on the circuit. Although Scape this afternoon has lifted his pace.
This is a change for the Championship Series of 2002. You're allowed, Neil Crompton. The second time this weekend we've seen that car, and Neil throws his head about inside there because he just can't believe his luck. Car number 27, the brand new Ford Falcon AU XR8 out of the 00 Motorsport team, has given up on Neil Crompton again on lap 32. I was going to say that you can pit under safety conditions this time around. That's basically why we've got a race inside a race, and this race at the moment is in pit lane. But for Neil Crompton, it's all over at the moment.
Well, we hear the crew are trying to talk him through how to fix this problem. He wouldn't be connected to the radios at the moment. They probably gave him a word of advice before he got out. This is a frustrating time for Neil. Brand new 00 Motorsport car. Made its debut at Malalo. He's asking now for a push to get started. Oh boy, this is a frustrating time.
Well, it makes you wonder if that's the same problem that Neil Crompton had from yesterday, because he had to get inside the rear of the car and check it out. That's where the fuel pump is located.
Mate.
And as Alan Heaphy said, they had some major trouble with that yesterday. Greg Murphy joins us now on lap 32 of 78. How you feeling inside that sauna, Murph?
Are you sure it's only lap 32, boys?
Yeah, you got a long, long way to go, my friend.
I'll swap ya.
No chance. What's the track conditions like, mate? Is it hard work?
Yeah, pretty good actually. We've made it. So I'm feeling pretty good at the moment. They're trucking along pretty well, so I'm pretty happy.
How's the Kmart team handling those pit conditions? Because it gets pretty frantic in there, Murph, and it's a matter of keeping your nerve together, isn't it?
Oh, it certainly is. And you know, the hardest job as a team manager, who you've got a car with 600 horsepower revving its guts out trying to get out past him or run him over, and he's trying to hold you back. So Rob had to hold me for a couple of seconds there, both stops for other cars, and then but that's just the congestion of it. You just got to deal with it.
It seems like it's a pretty narrow window, Murph, getting the tyre pressures right on this new tyre to find the sweet spot. Bridie's certainly found it, and I think you're starting to zero in on that as well.
Don't know if you can hear me there, boys, but yeah, you're right. It is. It's very, very difficult. I've just lost your comms there. Very hard to get it just right on with the pressures, because it is very, very difficult. The Bridgestone, we had it sussed, but the Dunlop certainly is taking a bit of time to work out.
Well, your car certainly looks, you're matching HRT's pace. There's been very few cars in the 124s today, and you're right up there.
Oh, I'm glad to hear that. I mean, Scapey's definitely got the hammer down. He's doing a good job out front, and we're just pacing ourselves too. I don't want to push too hard. Obviously, we were pulling away from the guys behind pretty easy, so there was no point in going crazy, because I'm sure we were going to have a safety car like this.
Good on you, Greg. Enjoy the rest of your afternoon in that sweltering heat of the Kmart racer. Greg Murphy, car number 51, talking us through the conditions of the Adelaide Clipsal 500. We are under safety car conditions at the moment. Let's take a look at the Shell Helix race score as it stands. Jason Bright, Marcus Ambrose, Stephen Johnson. Mark Scape, position number 4 at the moment. Tony Longhurst, Baird, Murphy and Richards.
Todd Kelly, Mark Larkham, Russell Ingle, all the way down to Larry Perkins in 16th. More from the Clipsal 500 after this.
He's been at the centre.
We're green to
again in the Clipsal 500 race 2. And as Jason Bright goes through that sweeper, he is trying to build a lead. He is yet to make his second pit stop. The plan is for him to get away from them before he can do so. Ambrose looking to stop him from doing that. Likewise in Stephen Johnson, third place. Mark Scape menacing as ever, fourth, and clear to go for the rest of the race.
Wasn't that just a graphic illustration of the extraordinary speed that they're putting down through that Dunlop sweeper? They just shoot around that right-hand turn. When you look at it from the other end of Decaturville Terrace, it is just amazing. 230 clicks an hour coming through there. So of the drivers out in the top 10 who have made both of their compulsory pit stops, Mark Scape is one, Greg Murphy is another, Stephen Richards also has done his two, Todd Kelly, Russell Ingall and Garth Tander have all come in twice. But we've got a report from the track as the Marcus Ambrose gets pulled by Mark Scape on the inside. Scape gets in front of the Pertec Ford.
Jason Bright now, this is going to drive every lap like a qualifier. He's going to try and take advantage now of clear track in front of him to try and get as much gap as he can on the field. He's still yet to make his compulsory tyre stop. The man behind him, Mark Scape, has made both his stops, so he's in the box seat at the moment. Ambrose still has to make his second stop. Stephen Johnson, Greg Murphy is fifth at the moment, and he's the only other car in that top 5 to have made his
Rodney
two stops.
Forbes in big trouble. He hasn't made it onto the turn at Bartels Road, spins the 004 Ford around and starts taking aim at the next turn.
Well, we're hearing there might be a bit of track breakup just at that corner where Rodney was coming out, turn 7. And that's always a problem when the conditions get this hot, because bitumen is basically an oil-based compound with aggregate in it. And when it gets heated to a certain level, it actually starts to break up. It gets sticky, it turns to fluid. And with the grip of these tyres, combine those two and it just starts to rip the bitumen off the surface of the road. And you can see there just the patches that have been ripped up by the tyres on the inside, just across the racing line out of turn 7 as they come onto Bartels Road. Jason Bright was the first to report into HRT about the track breakup. Looks like it's getting a little bit worse, but that's very, very hard to control when conditions are this hot.
That's on the right-hander as they exit Hutt Street and get onto that big back straight. Now, the boxes on your PlayStation 2 race score, the green ones mean that those drivers have come in and completed both their compulsory pit stops. The blue one for Anthony Tratt, for example, shows that he's only done one, and that is T for tyres, so he's got one more to go.
Just had a word down here to the guys at the Holden Racing team, and at the moment they have said, well, Jason, stay out in front, do your thing. They are banking on another safety car period to do the tyre stop for Jason Bright. On the flip side of the equation, Barry Sheen and Jeff Gregg showed you at the head of our show today the new style of wheel nuts that the TWR cars are running. They're more like an Allen key as opposed to the old spanner style wheel nuts. They seem to be helping in the pit stop process. Nobody did a sub 10-second time for stops, according to our stopwatches at least. 8.9 seconds, though, was the time Mark Scape did. He's the only one to do a sub 10-second stop for tyres.
Thanks, Greg. Just in
The changes Todd Kelly made to his car overnight have definitely been a big improvement. He's very, very happy with the car, he says to the team. But unfortunately, he gets asthma quite bad, and the boys were saying this morning he was on the Ventolin, so he was worried about the full endurance of the race.
As Mark was saying, another Commodore has swept past Marcus Ambrose, and we're on board with the man who did it, Greg Murphy. So he's up behind Mark Scape, who is behind Jason Bright, who still has one compulsory pit stop left to do. So that's the Kmart Commodore of Murphy. Ambrose in the Pertec Ford right behind him.
3 TWR Commodores out the front, 2 Holden Racing Team cars, and this one of Greg Murphy. Really, as we spoke to him before, starting to get a handle on the setup required with these new Dunlop control tyres and the idiosyncrasies of the Adelaide street circuit. You're riding with Murph now, 6th gear, as he approaches the sweeper, just a little lift to steady the car, then he's back on the gas. Look how fast they punch out of there. And hard on the brakes once again. Murder on the equipment, this particularly low speed stuff, high torque loadings on the transmission.
10 top 10 positions last year for Greg Murphy. He finished 4th overall, 3rd in race 1 yesterday, and collected 128 championship points already in the bank. If he can do it again, he puts himself in a great position to have a crack at the title in 2002. Let's stay on board the Kmart Racer with Greg Murphy and just feel what it's like to get an exhausting lap around the Adelaide Street Circuit. Absolutely amazing. Just keep your eyes on Murphy's left hand as he works his way throughout the gears there. He's done about 20 gear changes in that section of that lap, so there's more to come before he gets round to the end. This is a busy part of the circuit. You just saw the extraordinary pace that he pulled down out the Dunlop sweeper and down the terrace. Now on to turns 11, 12 and 13 to finish off a very quick lap for Greg Murphy and the Kmart racer, currently in third position. His best lap at the moment, a 124.766. Oh, Jason Richards, the Team Kiwi car, 0.21, ends up just in the safety tyres, but managed to keep it moving. So many cars have come unstuck there at turn 9.
Well, this strategy for the crew of car 2 at Holden Racing Team isn't paying off at the moment. Bright's trying to open up a gap on the rest of the field, but his teammate Scaife's going with him. The problem is that Scaife has done both compulsory stops. You can see how hard Bright's trying there. Power oversteer as he comes out of the corners, giving those rear tyres plenty. So you can see how hard he's pushing to try and open the gap, but it's not working at the moment because Scaife and Murphy are going with him.
He's only had one compulsory pit stop, Jason Bright. That was on lap 26 and it was for fuel, so Jason Bright does have to come in and do his compulsory tyre change, but well, you've seen this before. In fact, you saw it yesterday for a long time. Car number 2 in front, car number 1 behind him. The Red Rockets are roaring around the streets of Adelaide. Like we talked about the championship points that Greg Murphy put in the bank, Jason Bright will be absolutely desperate to get some on the board today. On board with Mark Scaife.
Yeah, it's hard. Scaife's trying too. There's a bit of a snap of oversteer there as he got on the power out of 4th turn. Victoria Bitter in-car camera. This is a great battle between these two teammates. Bright under enormous pressure, and he's got to come away from this race with some points.
No extra points on offer this season for the shootout, so you make the top 15 or the top 10 and your reward is the position that you can get. So no extra points. There is a chance that you could walk away from this weekend with nothing. The last 5 laps of Mark Scaife, 3 of them in the 124s, the last 2 in 125, 125.6212 was lap 35.
Here is Jason Bright's times by comparison. Well, you can see they're trading pretty much fastest laps in the race. Quickest time so far for Scaife was a 124.3, set that on lap 13, but look at this pace, pretty much in the same window, and the race is now 40 laps old. The consistency of those cars is quite extraordinary.
Back into business.